triumph as the entire Kushan army retreats in the wake of just a few hundred soldiers. As the people of Vritannis try to understand just how this could have happened, they begin to recognize the symbol on the soldiers' flags, a symbol that is recognizable as that of the Band of the Hawk, a legendary mercenary band that helped Midland win the 100-year war against Tudor just a few years ago. Griffith here, without his helmet and riding slowly towards the crowd on his horse. In this moment, this is the moment that he's been waiting for. And the moment all of the spectators have been waiting for as well. Griffith revealing himself at the proper moment. After the Kushan have incited enough fear into the minds of the people, after he has built up his reputation, and after those knowledgeable enough who would already recognize his affiliation. Federico Vandemian, who we know better as being Farnese's father, being also the highest status noble of Vritannis, begins to walk forward to talk with Griffith. Griffith declares himself the commander of the Liberation Army and the Army of Midland. This causes a stir and some commotion, as you would imagine, as many are clearly thankful for Griffith's efforts, but they are still subject to the rules of mankind, and someone just can't come in and declare themselves the ruler of anything, despite how skilled they may be. A few former members of Midland's army are here in the crowd, and they argue that only those of noble lineage have the right to say such a thing. Then Locus, one of the apostles in his human form, throws some shade their way, telling them that part of the Midland army's duties is to defend the kingdom to the last man. And where, as they have been here, safe, retreating into Vritannis, Griffith's Band of the Hawk has been fighting on the front lines the entire time, this giving them more of a right to call themselves Midland's army than the actual nobles here. Once more, to help settle things, and shocking everyone, Princess Charlotte arrives on the scene. She was thought to have been missing or captured by the Kushan, as she was, but thanks to Griffith she was rescued and is now here as technically the highest authority there is in the world of politics. Also, I still stand by the fact that Charlotte did nothing wrong, and everything she does here is based on her feelings for Griffith, which are not her fault. With the power, status, and magnetism Griffith has, any woman would fall for him, especially one he singled out to actually give his attentiveness to. She's a pawn in his games, but she's still just a girl in love with her savior. She even looks to Griffith for encouragement to speak in front of all the people, and his smile is all that she needs. And with her authority, Princess Charlotte declares him the supreme commander of the Midland Army, and as her fiancé. It's actually the character of Owen, who's been hanging around during the last few events that we've seen, who admits that he sees the justification for this as he and the other Midland nobles who escaped have just been hiding, and that fighting on the front lines, rescuing the princess, and having the back catalog of single-handedly winning a war for Midland has put Griffith into the most ideal position as leader. And it's hard to argue with any of that despite him being of common birth. The one little fact that seems to have no weight in light of the current circumstances. Federico, on the other hand, brings up the point that this war doesn't belong to just Midland, but is also that of a holy war, and affects all nations under the Holy See religion. The religion so willfully followed, it allowed men like Mazgus to exist, that it would detach us from the spiritual and make people literally blind to magical creatures, the Holy See, an authority even greater than that of the royal politics. Surely Griffith would still be subject to whatever decrees the Church of the Holy See would deem were right. Until the Pontiff himself shows up as the next part of Griffith's team, pulling up in a carriage, the Pope of the Holy See himself. This decrepit old man that was nearing the end of his life, having a vision of a white hawk, and then being swept up by Mule and Sonia, whom Griffith set out to recruit him. The Pontiff greets everyone, and then, to the shock and awe of the entire crowd, he deliberately falls flat on his face, prostrating himself to Griffith. Now, this is a practice that we've seen before in Berserk. The reason Mazgus' face looked like it did, flat and robotic, also representation of his personality, is because he prostrated to God every single day without fail, willingly making himself weak before the power and grace of a higher being. It's a way to show servitude and admission of your own weakness in the presence of something that's greater than you. To show your own loyalty to that higher purpose. For the Pontiff, the fucking Pope, the highest authority of God on earth, in the minds of humanity at least, for him to do this to Griffith proves that Griffith has the most dangerous authority there is, divine authority. If people believe there is a holiness to something, they can justify anything in order to follow and uphold that ideal. This is how Mazgus got to his level and why he was so terrifying. Mazgus believed everything that he did had divine righteousness on his side. Despite all the cruel and horrifying things that he did it with the purpose that he was doing the right thing and truly believed in that fact. If Griffith now is seen as having the same divine authority as the text of the Holy See itself, but will then have even more since he's a walking, talking, breathing person, people will willingly do anything for him no matter the order. Would you betray God and risk the punishment? This is how you trap the people. If you want to contribute Griffith being like the Antichrist, fooling humanity that he is the savior when he's not, that's a good analogy, but therein lies the issue. It's not the people's fault. They have become manipulated thanks to the ideas and rules of the physical world, kingdoms and religions. This is all stuff that we allow to rule us. We give it power. And this is what I believe is happening with Griffith. The people are willingly giving over their power to him by putting their faith in him and in the systems that rule them. Guts is completely an individual outside of this nonsense, but most people will never have the strength to struggle. It's much easier to just be a good little boy or girl and follow what the world is telling you is right and wrong. The pontiff here, before he had his dream of revelation of the hawk, was questioning his entire life and all of the choices that he made in the name of the Holy See. On his deathbed, he still didn't know if he lived the right kind of life by following it. And then Griffith shows up and confirms his entire ideology by showing him the Hawk of Light is real and here to save everybody. He explains his revelation to everyone, confirming that Griffith is the Hawk of Light. And remember, in the middle of the conviction arc, there was a dream that was sent out to everyone from the depths of the world of idea, that collective consciousness that we all share, the fact that we are all connected as part of life and the universe. Everyone had a dream of a white hawk coming to save them. The dream was meant to lay even more of that groundwork. It was like Griffith performing an inception on all mankind. As the pontiff tells everyone, they all remember the dream, and if everyone had the same dream, how can this be denied? It was holy and sacred. It meant something important. It was when the world began to change. Just before the Kushan invasion, and just before the astral world began to slowly overlap into the physical. The domino that started the chain reaction that led us here. With that, there is no more room for denial. The people stare in awe of the Savior and praise his name, that the Hawk of Light is here at last. Meanwhile, far away from the city of Vritannis on the ocean, Roderick's warship has set sail with our main group of characters and Roderick's entire ship crew. They're all heading towards Skelling Island, which holds Puck's homeland, Elfhelm. Isidro does some training with Azan, who is wound up here because he was sleeping on a boat that Guts and the others escaped on. Even though Serpico obviously recognizes him from when they were both part of the Holy Iron Chain Knights, Azan refuses to admit who he is or even take off his helmet, due to his own embarrassment of being dismissed from the Holy See Knights. If only he could see what's going on in Vritannis right now, he has no idea how lucky he is. Roderick's crew comments on the group of travelers on the ship, but Roderick, being the motherfucking boss that he is, tells them not to worry and to treat the guests well, especially Vritannis, whom he actually has an affection for because Roderick is a goddamn gentleman. Inside the ship, Shurikei is giving Vritannis more lessons in the way of magic, particularly how to enter and navigate the astral world. She has her lay down and detach from the physical, to be in her mind and let herself create sort of a replica of her physical body in the astral world. It's like giving your soul a shape. This is creating a luminous body. With a luminous body, one is able to freely explore the astral world with a consciousness attached. Instead of just being a floating spirit, your ego has complete control of the body. I like how Vritannis has a moment to talk here after her rescue, because there wasn't much time for her to do so with all of the action happening, and we didn't get to see how she was feeling. She admits here to her feeling useless and wanting to run away and to run back to what was comfortable. But it wasn't that it was comfortable in a positive way, it was just what she was used to. And this world of magic, of guts and monsters, was scary, and she felt as though she didn't have a place in it. But after they all came to get her, she felt more of a sense of purpose. Just the same, Shirke spent most of her life thus far in a forest far away from humanity at large, and viewing humanity mostly as savages. And let's be real, we mostly are. But again, through this group that Guts somehow brought together, Shirke has found the value in human connections, and now has become a teacher to someone else, showing Farnese the ways of magic, and bonding in ways that both of them never thought were possible. Guts is on the ship looking down at Casca when suddenly his vision goes blurry. And this page scared the shit out of me when I first read it. One, because I have really bad eyesight and get scared at the thought of being blind someday. And two, because as Guts used the Berserker armor in Vritannis, its residual effects come back to haunt him. It's already been mentioned that his taste buds have been diminished, and now his eyesight is momentarily disrupted. His senses are slowly getting weaker. And as he gives in to his beast of darkness, he slowly becomes less of a human, so to speak, looking at the very senses that make us, have a life worth living, going away. Roderick walks up to Guts like the badass he is, and they have a bro moment. Roderick then asking Guts what Casca is to him. Remember, Roderick doesn't really know anything about Guts other than he's an amazing fighter. Hell, Farnese, Serpico, and Isidro still don't even know Guts' history with Griffith or anything about the Band of the Hawk or the Eclipse. Guts goes to answer Roderick, but we then cut back to Farnese re-entering her body. Her luminous form was hovering above them, and she didn't want to hear Guts' answer. It's one thing to know the truth, that Guts loves Casca, but to actually hear it from his lips, it really puts the nail in the coffin. If Farnese has her crush on Guts, hearing that from him would just hurt her. Even though she has an awesome guy like Roderick here, but I get it. The next scene that happens is Casca wanders up on the mast of the ship where she could easily fall off. Guts instinctively rushes over to help her, but she, being afraid of him ever since he attacked her that one time, flinches and retreats back, causing herself to fall. Guts, without thinking, reaches out his left hand to grab her, his left hand that is no longer a hand, but metal in the shape of a hand. A hand that cannot grab unless magnetized like to the hilt of a sword. She falls into the ocean, and then Guts dives after her. Now, I want to say that Spired made an amazing video on this scene alone, and I recommend that you all go and check that out. The link will be in the description below. Tell him Ryan sent you, but I'll still cover the gist of what I get out of this scene, despite Spired doing a way better job at explaining it than I ever could. Guts recounts how every time Casca is near water, something like this has happened. Falling during the battle with Shooter, and Casca letting herself fall near the waterfall just before her and Guts confined in each other and made love. Guts manages to get Casca onto a lifeboat that Roderick immediately rowed out to them because he's a boss like that, but then Guts falls back into the water and begins to sink. Weak from his previous battles, heavy due to his metal arm, and exhausted from it all. Reminded of all the bad memories. It would be so much easier just to sink, and when it comes down to the negativity and depression in our own lives, it's often like the darkness of the ocean pulling us down, wanting us to sink, and that it is easier. It's the easier choice to just let it take you. Guts awakes in a bed on the ship surrounded by his friends who rescued him. Actually, it was only Roderick who rescued him. God, what a motherfucking boss this guy is, let me tell you. They let him know that Casca is okay too, and they all leave the room except for Shirke, who needs to reapply the talisman over Guts' brand that dulls the brand's effects. Looking at his metal arm, now detached, an arm that was specifically made in order to help him fight, to destroy, built with the intent of violence, not protection. It couldn't do what mattered most, save Casca. Guts speaks probably the best and most profound quote in the entire series of Berserk when he says, "Even if you force back what is lost, it won't be the way that it was." This means so much and is such an important lesson in life. For one, it does literally refer to his false arm, replacing what is lost and it not being the same. But even more so than that, it refers to the whole idea of wanting Casca back. Guts' old life is gone, and as much as he wants it back, too much has happened since then. The world has changed, he has changed. He is not the same person he was during those days. And Casca isn't either. And if Casca's mind can be restored, she will be a different person regardless. Guts won't be able to just go immediately back to that relationship like they were. There are a new set of circumstances and changes in who they are as people, and thus many new obstacles to overcome. It's a brutal realization, and one that Guts has been aware of, but again, it's different when you put things into words. Even look at this drawing. Look at the scars on Guts' body, burns from Ganishka's lightning, the wound on his chest from Slan that also wounded his astral self, the white in his hair, his senses depleting, all wounds to represent all new experiences since his journey as the Black Swordsman began. To represent things are changed forever, no matter how much that you wish that they weren't. Shurikei applies the talisman, remembering how her and Guts attached in the astral world, to help him win the battle against Daiba. And Shurikei, as well as Vritannis, feels uncomfortable with Guts' own admission of what Casca is to him. This is probably Shurikei's first crush in her entire life, and she knows it would never amount to anything romantically, but she is happy that her and Guts shared something that is uniquely their own. It's painful for them, Vritannis and Shurikei, and we see this when Vritannis tries to give Casca a bath. In Casca's regressed state, she is like a toddler, and it's frustrating for everyone taking care of her. I mean, you have an adult-sized little kid to constantly have to keep in check. And Vritannis, Shurikei, all of them, they all contribute and they all offer value and help fight and progress in Guts' mission, which is all for Casca, who can't do anything. And it's not Casca's fault, but the fact that they are all risking their lives, they are all progressing, and they are all in this together, but there's this element that Guts values more than all of them. And none of them knew Casca back then. They don't know what she's like. They don't know what her and Guts went through. So it's painstaking that no matter what they do and how their affection grows, Guts will always value this person that can't do anything or even acknowledge what Guts does for her. As Vritannis says it herself, it just isn't fair. Okay, so this next part is a little annoying, but also a little bit awesome, and it just showcases what I've been telling you guys. So 3 pirate ships on the ocean advance and start to sail up to Roderick's warship. This is the same annoying pirate from Vritannis that Isidro fought with. He is an annoying character then, and he's an annoying character now, and I regret to inform you, but he gets even worse as the story goes on. But for now, he thinks it might be a good idea to commandeer this ship and make some cash from it. Well, this pirate fucker didn't realize that this is the seahorse, Roderick, the motherfucking boss! Roderick don't give a fuck. We see that not only is he brave, willing to combat evil creatures, respectful of his new friends, actually in love with Vritannis, but he has also actually earned his reputation by being a master of the high seas and an amazing ship captain. He is so confident as he commands his crew and sails around the pirates like it was nothing, evading cannon fire and even causing their own ships to crash into one another. He gets his warship around them and upwind before returning cannon fire and blasting them into pieces. The pirates are forced to withdraw, remembering the legendary ship captain, Roderick. Below the deck, Guts lays exhausted with a fever and seemingly having some bad dreams. Dreams involving his own inner beast of darkness, and the symbolism of chains holding it back, meaning that Guts has actively been trying to hold back his inner rage and darkness. Those voices in the back of his head that once told him to just kill Casca and stop worrying about this whole thing. That voice that just wants to kill, that only cares about revenge. Guts hasn't beaten it, but has kept it restrained. But with all anger, frustration, and uncertainty, our beasts grow stronger. The beast preys on Guts' biggest fears, that his new crew, as they get closer to him, will also get closer to their own death, that being with him will cause their death, and that the beast of darkness wishes for this to happen, so it can be let loose. Get rid of all human attachment and run rampant with rage until you die. This is the goal of the beast. To be embraced and to be the only thing embraced. The beast mockingly tells Guts that he will obey him for now, that he will stay restrained until the moment is right, until Guts loses everything once again, and the beast can finally be set free. Up on the top of the ship, the crew celebrates their victory over the pirates. It's cool to see even Serpico joining in on the celebrations. Off to the side, Roderick speaks with Magnifico. Oh yeah, he's still here. You know, Vritannis' douchey brother. Well, knowing that they're going to an island where supposed elves lives, he wants to conquer it. Roderick just brushes him off and tells him to go ask Puck about it, to which Magnifico shrinks in his awkward fear and says that he'll make Puck king of the elves if he lets him take over the island, and nobody takes Magnifico seriously, not even Puck. Roderick then makes his way up to speak with Vritannis. He gives her his jacket like a goddamn gentleman, and then Vritannis tells him how she was floating above the ship practicing magic, and how she dealt with the feelings of her uselessness. Roderick senses her crush on Guts, but gives her praise anyway, and even notes that she seems to be best at taking care of Casca, and if Casca is the most important thing to Guts, then that's a lot of faith and trust that he puts in Vritannis. And of course, this is true. And it's the kind of benefit Roderick has of being an outsider. He sees the roles of the group way better than they themselves can. But then we get this image of Guts sitting on a ledge, staring out into the starry sky above the ocean. Not before showing images of his entire new group. Casca, Serpico, Isidro, Vritannis, Shirake, all of these people that are at the mercy of his mission, that are closer to death by being closer to him. After everything that's happened before, Guts knows more than anyone what could happen to them in the end. And if that did happen, what becomes of Guts? He's already lost so much of what makes him human. And so he sits here knowing that things can never go back to the way that they were, knowing that all of his friends may die on his journey, and knowing that he himself may not fully be able to hold on and stay grounded when it matters. The future is wide open for him here, and this brief moment of peace can't even be truly appreciated. Not to mention Guts has no idea what is currently becoming of Griffith back on the mainland. He just hopes that his mission will amount to something after all of this. And as Guts and the others fall asleep and ride on through the ocean towards the islands, we are going to end this segment of the Berserk manga analysis. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Please comment down below your thoughts on this portion of the story, all your thoughts, ideas, and comments about what's going on, what's going forward, what you're looking forward to next. Please like the video. Any kind of interaction with the video does help it out, so like it, comment, share it, subscribe if you want to stick around and see more. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you in the next analysis video.